There is nothing you can do that will not offend someone in this conflict. So the idea that if there is offence caused, that is grounds for getting rid of people. Well, Sir Keir Starmer has caused widespread offence.
Is the Labour Party descending further into difficult territory over its policy on a ceasefire? The first step, really, or at least one of them in that process. Keir Starmer says a ceasefire now would leave Hamas's terror infrastructure intact, but his own shadow cabinet don't all agree with him. The Labour MP Andy MacDonald was suspended last night over using the phrase "from the river to the sea." Usually, that is followed by "until Palestine is free." Many people see it as a call for Israelis to be completely eradicated from the land. Andy MacDonald, though, said something a little bit different.
We will not rest until we have justice. Until all people, Israelis and Palestinians, between the river and the sea, can live in peaceful liberty. Free, free Palestine!
And the fact that Andy MacDonald included Israel as well as Palestine in that phrase has led to some people saying it was unfair for him to have been suspended from the Labour Party. We spoke an hour ago to Labour's Shadow Digital Minister, Chris Bryant.
So I've seen two different versions of precisely what he said, and I don't know what the context was. And I think there will be a proper investigation within the Labour Party. But I just say this. At a time when some Jews are frightened in the UK of sending their kids to school, to Jewish schools, and when you've seen horrific scenes like in the airport in Dagestan, in the context of that anti-Semitism, I think it is really incumbent on every single politician in the UK that we have to use our language very, very, very carefully.
And we can speak now to Jamie Driscoll, the independent North of Tyne mayor, formerly of the Labour Party, of course. Good morning, Jamie.
Hello, Kate.
Was it right, do you think, for Labour to suspend Andy MacDonald? I mean, we've got some of the context there from both of those clips. You can hear what he said, and you can also hear what Chris Bryant said, that there are two versions of what he's reported to have said over the weekend. Was it the right decision, do you think?
It wasn't the right decision at all. And there is no doubt about what Andy said, because the video of that is actually posted at the top of his Twitter feed. There is no doubt that he was calling for people to live together in peaceful liberty. And it beggars belief. Why on earth? I mean, he's a good MP, Andy MacDonald. He's a very intelligent, very decent man. He wrote the best piece of legislation the Labour government is of Labour Party is thinking of putting forward in government about the New Deal for working people. So this strikes me as far more factional than anything to do with what Andy said.
So what do you think is really going on here then? You're talking about factional. What do you mean by that?
Well, there's a long-going attempt for the past few years about getting rid of people who don't agree with or are critical of Keir Starmer. But if the claim is of causing offence, well, let's look at Sir Keir Starmer's record on this. The Palestinians I spoke to on Saturday are offended by his refusal to call for a ceasefire. He visited a mosque in South Wales. They said that he's totally misrepresented what they've said. The Labour Muslim Network has described Andy MacDonald's suspension as, I'm looking here, obscene and deeply offensive. And there are Labour councillors resigning all over the country. So if the crime is causing offence, Keir Starmer is guilty.
Well, Keir Starmer will address some of the things that you've said today in a speech around 11 o'clock, and we will cover that for you here live on Times Radio. And pointedly, he's going to say that a ceasefire wouldn't help in this situation because Hamas won't agree to it. But on talking about offence, I mean, former Labour MP Louise Almond has said that even though in that terminology, in that phraseology, Andy MacDonald did use a more broad phrase, it is still provocative. She said the Labour Party was right to suspend the whip because when Jews are experiencing unprecedented levels of anti-Semitism, evoking from the river to the sea in any capacity is provocative and irresponsible. Can you see where she's coming from?
I think, given the context of this, yes, absolutely. Let's oppose anti-Semitism in all its forms. I don't think this is remotely anti-Semitic to call for peace in Israel and Palestine. I really do not see that anybody calling for a ceasefire is in any way promoting anti-Semitism. In the speech that I gave at the Palestinian Solidarity March on Saturday in Newcastle, I went out of my way to say, yes, let us mourn the victims of Hamas atrocities. Let us make sure we oppose. None other than Antonio Guterres, the Secretary General of the United Nations, has said we must stand up to anti-Semitism, we must stand up to anti-Muslim bigotry. I don't think that's in question. To try and somehow claim that this is what Andy McDonald has done is just not bear any kind of examination. And, there's an awful lot. The nature of this is that you've got someone like Benjamin Netanyahu and members of his government describing Palestinians as inhuman animals. We have one of that government who's a convicted terrorist or convicted for supporting terrorism. They are absolutely, there is nothing you can do that will not offend someone in this conflict. So the idea that if there is offence caused, that is grounds for getting rid of people. Well, Sir Keir Starmer has caused widespread offence.